So these are the 8 topics we go through. Some only a little bit high level and some a little bit deeper, and that's due to timing. If anyone is interested, we can go into one topic more details if that's required in one of the future sections. So this one is really going into all the depths of it. So before we go into the presentation itself, saying it already before, there are a lot of methodologies on how you can do this. I'm showing you how I do this and how I have done it on small and large stages in the past. So that's my way of doing this. That doesn't mean that other ways are not working as well. So tag for yourself what works for you. If you have never done it, maybe it's a good starting point. If you have done it, you can fine tune it and take what you think will enhance your keynote. Just saying this upfront. I have experience, but I'm not the person that is teaching people on doing keynotes, though that I do a little bit. So starting with intent. So for me, creating a signature keynote always starts with the intent of what do you want to achieve with that keynote. So my example is I want to build thought leadership, I want to educate people, and I want to make sales. So I have a combination of these things. So for you, when you start building a signature keynote for yourself, it starts with that in mind. Like, do you want to be well known for a specific topic? Do you want to create a motivation? Do you want to create inspiration? Do you want to create sales for yourself? A combination of all of the other topics. It's a key point because some things, let's say if I want to build a keynote that is driving sales, is different than a keynote that is driving education. And though that there might be overlaps, but of course the goal with driving sales is you want people to buy from you after the keynote. So it's a different strategy and a different build up. So it's really dependent on what you are after. That's the starting point. Then we go into the audience. And building a signature keynote is different than being invited for a keynote. So building a signature keynote for me starts really, who do you want to speak in front of? So the target audience that you want to speak to, what would you like them to take home? And what experiences would you like them to, what you create for them? And these 3 things are super, super important. Because if you know that, let's say in my case, sales is one part of the keynote, that I want to reach people, inspire people, and educate people on a specific topic so that they in the end convert to customers, that requires me to be very specific to whom do I want to speak. Like I can speak at events where I maybe have an amazing time, maybe inspire a couple of people and even educate them, but that doesn't lead to sales. So let's say I could speak at a healthcare event and might not have any conversion. So it's really important for you to understand who you want to speak in front of. And that then goes into, like we have said in the past, the events that you choose and or the businesses that you reach out to be speaking in front of. So that's the 2 things are critical starting points before you even think about what the topic of your signature keynote is, because everything else is then connected to those 2. So this 2 we take as a given for everything what we're building now. And then the structure, I go very, very simple. And that's just for me an easy way how I remember it. I'm creating a menu, which is a starter, the main course, and the dessert. And if we now go deeper from a structure perspective, the starter, for me, number 1 is always the why hook. So I believe whatever is often what I start with when I do very, very big keynotes, because then you give the whole audience a connection to what you are all about. Like, why are you existing? Why are you speaking at this event? And so on. So it's a critical moment for me where you capture the whole audience in one sentence. And then, of course, there are different techniques that you can engage the audience in different ways. But for me, the most important things is this, then giving an overview of what you're talking about, which is the main course in our context. And then I always give a forecast of the dessert. So I give them already a little bit of hint what is coming in the end so that they stay on in the room and not run away. So there's something like a carrot that you throw at them in front of them or dangle in front of them that they're staying. So these three things I always put into the start of the keynote. And that can be 30 seconds, it can be 5 minutes, depending on how much time you have and how much in depth you go. So having finished the starter, everyone understands your why, everyone understands what they can expect from the keynote, which is the main course, and then everyone has somehow something that is, oh, that's interesting, that comes in the end. Example, when I was saying that in Switzerland, of course, they have most of the people in the room have seen me doing that on the stage where I asked them in the end to come on stage. So the funny thing of that was I was able to, I'm losing my connection here. No. I was able to explain it based on the keynote that they have literally seen me live on stage. So I'm trying to keep it a little bit different now, but in the end, it's like they go out and understand what's coming. So then we go into the main course. I always try to build a structure that I can remember. So as easy as possible for you to remember. So I always say 5 ingredients, I have 6. So something that you remember. So my signature keynote is called Leading with Impact. So impact is then IMPACT. So that's I'm using that for me as a structure so that I always know where I am in my keynote. I don't need slides. I always know I is innovation and so on. So I know what the words are behind, and I don't need to show them even on a slide or tell them to anyone. I just go through that for myself. So what is a menu structure that you can utilize for yourself, which 5 to 6 or even less ingredients of the menu so that you can repeat them all the time. Plus, you remember them in the structure. So it helps you in a lot of different ways. And then making it simple as well. Inside of these ingredients, I always go hook, story, takeaway, which is a little bit, it's again a mental model, which we go later in, that I use for videos, that I use for other topics as well. And it's easy to understand. So a hook is something where you create the interest of what you talk about, then you create or tell a story, and then you go into the takeaway. So it's a very simple structure of the main course that you can use for yourself. One thing is to give the audience a structure so they know what you're talking about. And the other thing is you have yourself the structure, and then it's very easy to follow through. And as well, be on stage, doesn't matter in let's say how anxious or how excited you are, you still can follow that through because you have hopefully trained that before, and it's an easy structure to remember. Then when we come into the dessert, of course, it depends which kind of keynote and what you're doing. Always try to build in at least the key takeaway, obviously, and sometimes linking that to an irresistible offer like I did in Switzerland. Which was in that case, I was saying, okay, 10 CEOs from the room on stage, and I will help you for a whole year. Which I started in the beginning. So maybe for those that haven't seen the keynote, I started the whole keynote with a hook. When in the starter, I was talking about that I'm investing, what was it, like 300,000 euro in 10 people in this room, and I will tell you in the end. So that was kind of the hint towards the dessert. And then what I always do is the loop back to the 5 ingredients, like what did we learn? And then I will go into the final takeaway. And that sounds basic, but it is basic. It's not difficult at all. It's just having a structure that you know how to use. And for me, it's just easy to remember. It's the menu, and I follow the structure of the menu, and then I go inside of each of these things into the 3 topics. Hooks. Hooks is super important because we use hooks in a lot of ways, not just in keynotes, as well in social media, in everything that we are doing. So starting always with what do you want to trigger in the other people? Like, do you want to trigger emotions? Do you want to trigger logical understanding of something? And then you can use them in different ways. And it's all about how do you grab the attention inside of the room. And that can be a word, that can be a sentence, but it can be as well you on stage moving around and doing certain things. So it's not always that it is only words. In the end, the whole keynote is not just words. Words is just one tiny piece of the total. But it's just using them with intent and knowing exactly how you want to use them so that you can throw out the hook into the audience and then you kind of fish them to where you want to get them. And that's the same with stories. So I always say you should have a story library that you can reuse in different ways. So just one thing, you can have stories that are completely true, but you can as well have stories that are completely made up. In the end, it doesn't matter. Like Jim was doing a good example in the last 5-minute keynotes where he has, what was it, broken your finger or something, which was a made up story. Like his fingers were okay. But if you watch the keynote, then it felt like, oh shit, he has broken his finger or something went wrong with his finger. So it doesn't matter if it's true or untrue, and credibility is a key part. So you can use your credibility as part of stories. I, for example, tell stories about my past in IKEA or about people that I have met. So you use credibility of big brands, credibility of yourself, credibility of things that you have achieved as part of the stories. So it's not as such in itself. It's more about you just mention it like while you tell the story, you're dropping the small things. Then two things. One thing is super powerful is your origin story, which every one of you should know. Like, how did you get to where you are today, and why is it you? And what is your why connected to that? So if you are able to tell that story, you can do this in 30 seconds, in 20 minutes, in an hour, in different ways to get everyone on board that you are the person that can be trusted in this way. And then next to that is like a story library of different topics from your life. If you are telling about yourself, obviously I have the same for stories from IKEA, stories from working with startups. So it's kind of you build this for yourself, and then you can always pick stories for certain topics where you can trigger the audience. Important with stories, they always, like everything, it needs to fit to the audience. As more it connects to the audience, as better it is. Like if I would tell stories from IKEA being in front of startup, I need to tell them still, let's say of startup founders, I need to tell them in a way that they make sense to the startup founders. If I'm standing in front of big corporate, I need to tell the stories from IKEA in a way that they are related to them in their role in what they're doing. All logic, but it's very, very critical that you have your story library and then you use that stories to tell the things that you want to get across so people understand it. And then you do that in a way that they truly understand it and can relate to it. Just checking the messages here. Okay. Mental models. One of the things a lot of people don't utilize, and that's a super, super powerful one. Mental models slash frameworks are simple and easy ways to explain things so that people will remember them. It's always, let's say, topics that you divide into 5 or topics that you divide into 3. You can use acronyms, like I said, like impact in my case is my main menu, and I remember that. And then you connect that to stories. Like one mental model I use all the time in all our calls is the visibility and the credibility. If you have the credibility and don't have the visibility, you need to get them at least even and then drive the visibility up so that people understand how credible you are. And then I'm using another mental model that I'm linking to that, which is the difference between thought leadership and how is it called? I'm blanking. Thought leadership and influencers. So influencers are into visibility only, and thought leaders have way more credibility. So these are mental models that you can use for yourself. As more you use mental models that you use all over the time, as more people will see these mental models as part of your repertoire. So they will understand, that's the mental model of Jim. That's what he says all the time. It doesn't matter if you have made them up or not. It's just that you use them to explain things. Like the why, how, what mental model is a model or framework. That's what Simon Sinek is using all the time, and everyone knows that he has used it. He has had a huge TED talk about it, but that doesn't mean that he has invented it. So it's just an easy way to explain things. Tools, also super simple. Obviously, you can use slides. My recommendation is using slides without words as much as possible. A lot of people have slides and it's like almost like a newspaper on the slide, so everyone starts reading and nobody pays attention. When I had the keynote speaking training way back, was like, don't have slides at all, and you are the person that is in focus. That's the best way because nobody looks at anything else than you. But it's not always possible, and sometimes it's required to have slides. Then do as less as possible text and as much as possible pictures. Pictures, similar like on social media, as more faces, as better. But of course, use them in a way that you can tell the stories, and then there are visual hooks for what you're talking about. And then you can use physical objects in the same way. Like I was giving the example on my speaking page on my personal website, there's a photo where I'm standing with, what is it? Serving plate. Like, and I was standing there with a water glass on it for 45 minutes keynote, and I was not explaining why I'm standing like this. And the keynote was in one of the big innovation events in Russia, in Moscow. And in the end, I was giving it up because I was then explaining it because the keynote was about in big organizations, and when you're innovating, you need to serve the customer. So that was literally the link to me standing there all the time. But it kind of creates a dissonance, I think is the right way. Like you're talking about something and nobody gets it why you're standing like this. And it's just an attention grabber for everyone because people want to know why the heck are you standing there? So there are thousands of these opportunities that you can do for yourself. Just being a little bit innovative when it comes to that. Last point, pricing. Number one is ask if they have a budget. So let's say you're getting approached for being a speaker, always ask. If you don't ask if they have a budget, they will always ask you for doing it for free. And I have seen this over and over and over again. If you ask, they will figure it out. So if you don't ask, you will not get an answer. When you ask, then they say, yeah, we don't have a real budget, but we can pay for the travel and we can pay for the accommodation. We can do this, we can do that. So one good example, and for those that have not seen it, in the last days, Christian was posting it inside of the community that he got his first speaking gigs. And though that they ask him to do that for free, he gets exposure, he gets paid to get there, which is like travel and so on. And all of that is giving him a free ticket to the whole conference as well, which is like a 3K deal. So in the end, if you think about it, he's getting paid 3K to speak on stage and still can do sales after that. So it's just being aware that even if it's maybe in the initial thinking for free and you're not getting paid cash, it can still be beneficial and that it's just a way of understanding it. So number one, ask for it. Think about creative ways of how you can be paid. That is maybe not money straight away. And then the third thing is obviously if they have a budget, if they're paying, always tell them your pricing. So it's like when you're at a bazaar and you're like negotiating, the person that is setting the price is in the lead. Let's say if you want to buy the wallet and the person that is selling it says 15 euro, then you go lower, right? But he will not be able to go to 20 anymore. So what I always do is I always go higher. So it's like you're setting the upper level, and then you can go down from that. Example. So you want to get 10K for speaking gig, you say 15K. And then you can go to 10K, and then it's still cheap for them. It's still like they got you to 10K. The same, let's say if you want to get 3K, you start with 5K. Obviously, you need to be able to say that you can deliver to that level. It's like don't charge 20K and then deliver something that's 500. Like if you want to get 10 or 15 to 20K on stage, you need to be a really, really good speaker, and it needs to be a huge event or like something business wise where they really get value of what out of what you're doing. So it's critical thing. And then one thing that I recommend everyone to do, always try to double the price next time. So you let's say you speak for free, and you got the value with trips and everything, and it was 3K in the example of Christian. Next time I would set 6K as the goal. And you do this as often you can, because in the end it's just perception. So you putting the price high will enable you to get them understanding, oh, that's what she is about. That's the level we need to talk about. Because there are people who are charging, let's say, 100,000 plus for a keynote. It's not about that their time or their performance is that much better than yours. It's just perception of the people. It's just they want to have this person talk about. They're just utilizing their credibility and or visibility. They're like TikTok stars that speak on stage, they get paid a lot. And there are other people that are less visible who are getting paid a lot as well. So it's again, it's an opportunity for you to define what you want to have. And then understanding the context. Let's say if you are at a startup event, you're most probably not getting paid 10K. If you are talking in front of a very large corporation that has, let's say in my case, in the keynote was like 6,000 people, 6,000, let's say, even if they take entrance fee or whatever, then you know how much people you can reach. Then you know the benefit of you being there, and then you can calculate based on that, or you get a feeling of that. So I always, and still do today, I try to double. Doesn't work all the time because I'm already quite expensive, but I try to get to that and try to understand. And that's why I ask for the budget. If they give you the budget, then you know a number. It's again the same sales tactic. If they tell you, yeah, we have a budget of 3,000, then you know you cannot ask for 20K. You can still try it though, but always ask for budgets. Critical thing. That was the speed run. Questions? No
When
questions.
you have a speaker opportunity and you feel it's absolutely not really fully like your audience, would you do it anyway? Just like for the chance that maybe one person is there that can be like converted or can be a link to someone else, or is it like, yeah, because they pay nothing? I have an offer like, and it's on at my birthday. It's like, but it's the second
Oh,
stage is yeah, that's a bit ouch. They pay nothing. It's in Berlin. It's good. This comes so naturally, right? It's in Berlin, so they pay nothing. And it's not really my audience.
depends. So if you can turn this into an advantage for yourself, it's still worth it. Let's say you want to get more speaking training on stage in front of bigger crowds, still worth it. You have the possibility to get a video shooting of it and have someone who takes photos, still worth it. Even more worth it sometimes than being paid. So
Yeah, I know with photos of like workshops and stuff I've done.
exactly. It sounds stupid, but seeing like yourself on stage, having a good quality video, even if it's bad quality video, is better than no video.
Yeah.
Will show that you are a speaker that speaks on stage. I mean, I don't know if you have seen Jim's video. That's incredible. Like, if he's not getting 25K for keynotes, then I don't know. after that video. It's
The
like
last,
the
you mean like
investment is
the
huge.
thing of last week, that what you gave us, the finger thing?
No, no, no. The real video of him doing the real keynote.
No, I haven't seen. Sorry, Jim.
No, maybe you can drop it in the chat here for those that are interested. It's definitely in the community somewhere in the thread. But so it's if you have a high quality video, if you take the video that is on top of my keynote page, it's not the most exciting keynote, if you ask me. It's like not the best keynote I ever did, but it's the highest quality of video footage I got, video and sound wise. I only have one that's better. But that's a panel discussion. That's why I'm using that right now. And it still converts because what people see is my energy. What people see is that I can speak in front of a large audience because it was a huge stage.
Hmm.
So all of that is, again, it's perception. If you can create that, going back to your initial question, if you can create that in the way that they understand, oh yeah, he speaks on stage and it's big. It's a lot of people, even if it's just 5 people in the audience, nobody sees that exactly.
Yeah,
But you create that, and if you can do that so that you get the footage, it's still worth it 10 times.
great.
Because people will see this and then they see, okay, he's speaking on a big stage. Like you see with Jim's video. Jim, sorry.
Oh yes. We just is this a is it standard practice also to collect a deposit like up to like a 50% deposit to just secure the booking for the keynote, since I imagine these getting booked for these events happens months and months in advance.
So what I do, I have normally I try to sign a contract that is kind of like a real contract, and then I try to get paid before.
Okay.
Not all are up for that, but I try to get paid before I go on stage. Because
Great.
afterwards you have delivered, you cannot do anything anymore. But if they don't pay, you can say, hey, yeah, you didn't pay, I don't go on stage. Not that you should do that, but it's as still you have like power dynamics, it's still in your favor. So I mean you can do if it's far away in advance, you can ask for an up like payment, 25% or 30%, whatever. Or even full paid. It's like, yeah, guys, if you want me to reserve that spot, you need to pay in the next 14 days. If not, I will not be able to reserve it because there will be people who are paying me in front because that's the way how I do things.
Great. Excellent. Good deal.
Other questions?
The headline was how to create signature keynote, right?
Yeah.
There's things, I mean, I feel somehow like, okay, it's like appealing for me to talk about them. And it's the signature because you sign with your personality and like the way of deliverance and like also the topic. But what about matchmaking between your dream audience and the signature that you put into your signature keynote?
That's why it should be, or how it should be. Like for me, a signature keynote is your number one keynote.
No, I
Like
understand.
I
It's like how to ensure this match between my signature and my like assigned like audience is like yeah, like cream, the best.
so
How
you mean the ones that you set out to do it for, or the
yeah,
ones that are booking you?
that's a good question. I mean, like it's yeah, it's interesting to differentiate it like this way: the people that host you, or the people they also, or the people that they host as like audience as well, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, all right.
This really depends. Like in the end, who is paying needs to have benefit from you speaking there. And
Yeah.
then depending on what the audience is, they need to have a benefit of that as well. So that's if you remember when we talked about doing keynotes, like a critical part when you're getting booked is understanding why do they book you and what they want the audience to go away with. If you know this, it still can be 100% your signature keynote. Because just to give you an example, what I always get is, hey, we want to have this keynote, that topic. And my signature keynote is always on top. And that's why they're choosing that topic. So example with the speaking agencies where I'm listed, if they reach out like once in a moon, then they say this keynote we want to have from you. And then the clients are requesting that as well.
What's your signature keynote?
Leading with impact.
So it's quite, I mean, quite wide.
Yeah. Yeah, then it depends on the subtitle is always how I learned to innovate at IKEA. So that's then a little bit closer to it.
Mm.
But the good thing is it is flexible so that I can still use it in different ways.
So you have like
And even
modules.
even the 5 or 6 in my case topics from the main menu, they are always the same, but I can still fine tune them. Like the stories that I tell, how I tell them, I can always do towards the audience. Still, the structure is the same. My preparation for all of it is done, literally. Don't tell anyone that is booking me. Yes, in the end, I use the same structure, the same topics, and then I just fine tune it to the audience that I'm speaking in front of. So, example, I was doing the keynote for that I did, which is the top video on my speaking page right now, which was Startup Nights in Switzerland. It's a version of it. It's not 100% the signature keynote, but it's in the end it is kind of. But I did this in very, very, very big corporate, like 3 months prior. And that was a different version of it, a different direction, but in the end it was the same thing. So that's why for me, it's like the signature keynote is the number one thing you talk about. And then everything else falls into places. Because I can talk about like personal branding, I think, a bit, but it's not my keynote. And it's not where I have the biggest credibility compared to what I did in IKEA, compared to what I did like the last 20 years. Maybe in 10 years, it will be personal branding or thought leadership or whatever. But right now, this is my number one thing that I have the biggest credibility, especially for people who want to pay. So that's then important for you to find out. It's like, what is the topic that you are, let's say, the number one person or the top 10 in the whole industry? What is the industry? And then how can you bring this in a way that it is interesting to the people that you want to reach?
How you measure that? Because I mean, this is like when my imposter kicks in finally, and like due to like this, yeah, like how I experience like this more like crisis-ridden years. I feel a bit like, for instance, when it comes to facilitation, that I really like untrained a bit this muscle. So I don't necessarily feel, and it's like hard to measure anyway. I can just like put that with mental training that I'm, yeah, maybe like one of the 10 best, but I'm not like honestly convinced I'm right at this place right now. So I feel,
Yeah.
of course, like this subtly, there's like a little bit of insecurity. I would be afraid that shines through when I'm speaking about it, even if I can speak confidently.
Yeah. But then I would more go into, so let's say if we look back the last 10 years, what is the topic that you have the biggest external credibility in? External validated.
Good question.
Yeah, you don't need to answer. It's more if you go back the last 10 years, then then you look into, okay, how can I use that and use that going forward as my signature? If we use Jim as an example, like Jim is using like acoustic guitar, which he is a professional since ages, as the key thing. And then he's building his keynote around his personal story and linking that to business. But the most credibility he has is from the past, which is playing the guitar in huge events on stage and everywhere. In my case, if you go back my world, that's like the biggest credibility I have is running innovation in IKEA. So that some people have forgotten that already, but it's still.
I mean,
Even-
I just like I'm just like left to marry somehow like these two realms of also like innovation work and workshops on the one hand, and then I shared with you I was doing this conscious sexuality workshops more as edutainment formats on festivals.
Yeah.
We had kind of a like I don't know, there was it was very like juicy and flirty and stuff. So for me it would I have a, like in German, like Führungskraft and Verführungskraft. So
Yeah.
it's like a
That's good.
complementary, there's a complementary concept. So what I see is like I would like my closest thing I would like look for is to marry somehow like leadership with seduction and eros. And
That's awesome.
yeah, it's not many people doing it because I just like see like most work environments are actually unsexy, especially in Germany.
Now, why there's hierarchy?
Yeah, that's okay. Like especially like
No, but you can play with that.
yeah.
Seriously. You can play with like let's make leadership sexy again or whatever, that something like that. Something that is a little bit provocative
Yeah, I
if it
mean, there's
fits
a
to
lot
you.
of boxes underneath, like just like leadership language. It's very rarely inviting. It's still like hierarchical, and it's not seductive. Yeah, and I think like people would be more on the I want to page if they would be seduced to work and not be like pushed by motivational approaches, right?
By the policy to get into the office.
Exactly. Yeah, okay. Then I will stick to that. So it feels
No,
somehow like,
and you can still fine tune it, so you don't need to
oh,
be
no, of course.
only this. Just see what sticks.
There's actually like, Robert Greene. I can recommend everybody here to Robert Greene is like taking always like one topic, like power, and his newsletter book is actually about seduction. He has a book like about power, and he totally like a maniac goes into the topic. He always then writes a 700 pages book, and the one about power is very interesting and about leadership as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what you see. Let's say if you take authors as an example, they
Mhm.
use the main signature keynote for that time is always about the book or the topic connected to the book, so
Yeah.
that they promote the book, and most of them have businesses behind it as well. If I would be better in writing, I would have a book too. I'm just waiting for AI to catch up.
I think like Claude does a very good job or if you prepare your like prompt setups. You can even say like you can give it the tone off and then you just like prompt write me an article about this with your little abbreviation and it takes the whole tonality of Mark Manson or whomsoever.
Yeah.
Charles Manson, if you prefer. Great.
Any other questions? There's chat question. Wait. Oh no, that's just the videos. Highly recommend to watch the videos.
The videos off.
Of Jim,
Oh
just
yeah,
to
exactly. Yeah. Thank you, Jim.
get a taste.
I bookmarked it in my folder.
Awesome. Cool.
Any more questions?
Um,
Not, you can still ask them in the community, of course.
when have you like when you say like signature keynote, so like how do you ensure yourself to not get bored by doing like repetitive stuff? And connected with this question, whenever you go somewhere, do you do kind of like an audit or research about the auditory, about the people coming to be more sure, okay, how to touch them, how to catch their sense of humor, their cultural cues, and so forth?
Yeah. So to the first one, I'm not getting bored because I can still change it up as much as I want to without anyone getting it. That's the cool thing. And it's still what I see, at least for myself, it's still an amazing topic that I can talk about. And like worst case, I'm still getting paid well too. That it sucks for an hour.
Ah, that's so bad. That's so bad. I'm sorry.
Exactly. Like worst case. No. So yeah, that's a key part.
Yeah.
But in the end, I'm not doing it for the money. That's why I'm getting paid as well. That's the weird thing. If you only are after the money, it's not going to work.
No.
You're after if the impact, then it's differently. But until now, I'm not getting bored yet. Ask me in 10 years, maybe.
Yeah. And like,
But I'm just mixing it up.
yeah. And how do
Content.
you like inspect or like scan like the expected audience? Like how do you do that? Because if I would be invited to kind of I had that just like 3 years ago. I was like invited for I don't know, like some pharmaceutical, and it was like a meeting with 500 executives, but I didn't want to pay 4,000 euro. They told me it's too expensive. And I would have
Yeah.
gone for like probably even like 20, 30 like short interviews with people from the audience to feed the keynote up with like pain stories and like whatever, to just
Yeah.
wake them up with insight and intel.
Yeah, so what I always do is number one is I ask the organizers. Let's say I'm invited for a keynote that I try to understand as much as possible who is in the room. Then I can use that obviously. And if you're in big conferences, that's easy. You will see who is there. Like you use their app or whatever in the past. And if it's a big corporate event, that's the ones that are paying best. Then it's always like deep preparation with the team. Let's say when I was speaking for the big American company, was like 2 months preparation, couple of calls, understanding exactly what they want to get to, understanding who are the people in the room. It was all driven by me. I wanted to know this to be able to perform. And I've had this with like, yeah, all of the big corporate clients. So I tried really to understand, to your point, like, okay, what are the people in the room? What are their pain points specifically to that topic? So when I was doing leading with impact for one of the biggest tobacco companies, I was asking like who is in the virtual room because a virtual keynote, and what are their problems to these topics, to leadership, to innovation? How do they see this? What is the problem of the organization and the people as part of that? Because it was a cross-functional. What are their problems in all the different fields inside of the different parts of the organization and countries, because they have a like country setup as well, so that I had like a whole tapestry of that I can press depending on how people are reacting on screen, because what we said is like have the screens on, cameras on, so that I can see them, so then you can still work with that. But for me it's a critical thing to perform properly, to know who is in the audience.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is like, I don't know, like why I haven't done it even earlier, but like all like formats I'm running, I just prepared that with this systemic interviews because it's so to the point. It's already like strong relationship building gives you so much more security on stage,
Exactly.
Oh, this is just amazing. And you really know, okay, you talk about things that like at least the 20 people you talk to are not bored by. Like you at least meet them.
Yeah.
I find it quite valuable, and yeah, it's I think like the most missed leadership approach.
Always.
Talking with each other.
Listening, exactly. Jim.
Yes. So I've been thinking, since I don't have prior paid keynote bookings, trying to navigate how to confidently justify charging 5,000, 10,000, and up for my keynote concert. And then I think, well, should I start with a lower rate to build momentum, or would that just coming in with a lower rate hurt my perceived value?
I would go as high as possible for you. You have the video, you get them to watch the video. and shit, we are recording, but worst case, you can bring me in as your agent. Say, hey, there's my agent, I need to bring him in the negotiations. Then because it's easier for me to say no than for you. It's like, hey, sorry, but Jim is booked that day. It's not going to happen. If you're not getting to 25K, it's not going to happen. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Like I can play this harder than you would ever do. Or you choose a friend that is really good in negotiation that works the same way.
Got it.
Because I'm not emotionally connected to you earning money. I mean, I do as a friendship, but not like to like shit. If I'm not getting this, I would do it for 10, though that I know it's worth 20. I'm just like, okay, bring it on, 20. So that's a strategy you can do if you have a friend or us. Like I'm happy to do this for any one of you. If anyone wants to, I'm jumping in as your agent. Say, hey, sorry, go on. If like you will not get him, is no chance.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
I mean but for you it's like go high. Go high. So let everything that comes inbound always start with anchoring them straight away. So my keynote concerts are between 20 and 30 or 25 and 30. So you directly anchor them on it's the same in sales. You should always do this. Whatever you do, you anchor them here. And then you can still go to 20, but they will never ask you to go to 15. If it's half the price. Nobody would ever ask you. They would rather say no than ask you to go to 15.
Okay.
And then it's more a question. You can be flexible if you say, yeah, 15 is still good. But that's something you can see if they're still willing to do it afterwards. But that's more a negotiation tactic. So I would always anchor them as high as possible. What you feel it's like ridiculous, that's the number you should put. Yes, there will be people who say yes without anything. Like they will just, yeah, okay, why do I need to sign? And because if you would not do this, like you will miss out. That's what it's like salary negotiations in big companies. Like before you start in the company, you says like, yeah, whatever, 150K. Look, deal. Shit. You know, when they directly accept it's shit. If they say, oh fuck, that's too much, then you know then you're at the right spot. If they directly accept, you know you're too low. But you cannot say anything higher anymore because you said already 150K. So the HR person or the person that is hiring is like, done deal.
Yeah.
Even more so in business. Like if you would tell me, yeah, I'm coming for 200, off we goes. Like you will not be able to get 2,000 anymore with me, at least. So it's go high. You have the credibility. It doesn't matter if you have not done the keynote concert for big clients. You have been on stages. You have the video that is proof. You have all your history from big stages around the world. That's what you can use. Easy.
Okay. Okay. And that was at the core of my concern there was the credibility aspect, specifically for keynote concerts with, those types of clients. So
yeah, it's just I'm a big fan of not lying. That's very important. But you don't need to say everything.
yeah.
So you don't need to say, I have not done keynote concerts in front of paying clients, like corporate stuff. Why would you say that? And they will not ask you this as well. Like they will not ask you. So what performances did you have in the past? You can tell them all about your amazing performances. Like where have you been speaking before? Then you can say, yeah, you were still speaking when you were doing music. It's kind of a bit on the edge, but even if they ask you about that's basic communication. They ask you about So where have you been speaking before? And then you're saying, I was performing on this stage, that stage, that stage, that stage. You just didn't answer the question properly.
Right. Okay.
Right? That's PR communication training in big corporate.
Yeah.
How to answer, or politicians, like how to answer without answering.
Sure.
So it's just that you stay true to yourself and be 100% convinced, which you are, that you can deliver. I mean, this for you is not a problem. And of course, we all have this, like, shit, if they pay me 20K for an hour, it's quite ridiculous. But hey, the second time is like, yeah, I can do that. And the third time is like, okay, 50, without a doubt.
Yeah.
It's always like this. It's the same when you do consulting. You like, first time you take 5K for a day, and you have never done it before. It's like, whoa. And then next time it's like, shit, they don't pay me 5K. So
Yeah.
it's just only goes up, and it's just the confidence that you project inside of your videos. If we take you and the videos, because everyone can watch them, if you just project that inside of the negotiation, it's going to happen, because it's like 70% your tonality, your body language, like everything, and it's just a bit of words.
And I know a big part of what they're buying is our confidence as well.
Exactly.
Cool. Excellent.
Good. Then see you next week. Whatever we
Yeah,
have next
that
week.
was well put, Jim. What they're buying is our confidence. That is well put.
Thank you, Sabine.
Sabine is good at that as well. Even with camera off.
Thanks.
No, but
Yeah.
you're on the videos every day, so we know how you look.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even on construction sites today.
Yes.
Okay.
This was a good
Good.
one. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. See you next time.
Jens.
Cheers.
Thank you, Jens.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.